commandeered London City Airport for the ultimate showdown between car, bike and boat. Only Honda, the biggest engine builder in the world, makes power for all three, and we've chosen their fastest available motors and leading drivers. At 21, Steve Curtis was the youngest ever Class 1 powerboat world champion, and he's now won it a record-breaking 5 times. Last year, he won the Seagrave Trophy, awarded for outstanding performance in a vehicle on land, sea or air. His name now rightly sits alongside legends like Malcolm Campbell and Stirling Moss. His 225 horsepower boat is made of composite carbon and Kevlar, weighs 1,100 kilograms and can be bought for £50,000.
The idea today will be to get as much of the boat out of the water as possible, and the way I can do that is hold it absolutely flat out, and I've got a trim button which tilts the engine out, which lifts the front of the boat up. The more I trim up on that, the more the bow comes out of the water, the higher it gets. Actually, the looser the boat gets,
right,
and the faster it should go.
Looser? What happens if it gets ultimately loose, if you keep on trimming out?
It will start to chime warm and then eventually roll over.
The boat literally flies across the surface, but it has the worst power-to-weight ratio and takes time to get going, so we're allowing Steve a flying start. Crossing the line flat out could be all the advantage he needs. Michael Rutter is Honda's #1 in the British Superbike Championship. Earlier this year he won a road race hitting 201.1 miles an hour, which looks and sounds like this. His Works Fireblade is totally hand-built and literally a £1 million motorcycle. That's how much it costs to lease just for one season. At 161 kilograms, it's the lightest of our competitors, but messing up the start could be downright dangerous.
Oh, how many revs? Full revs and dump the clutch, or you just go over backwards?
We go over backwards, yeah, really. We've got like a mark on the rev count, so we just hold it there, hold the clutch for up to probably about 50 miles an hour, and just letting it out gently as it goes.
It's a bit of clutch slip to make the perfect start.
Yeah, definitely.
But you've got this other little extra secret weapon on your bike, a thumb brake.
Yeah, which is always good for the start. It's always hard to keep your foot on the rear brake as well, so we've got a thumb brake up there so we can hold the front wheel down, because we've got 200 brake horsepower at the back wheel, and it always wants to go airborne.
You've only got one little tiny wheel. How much grip have you got on the back of that?
Not much, but we're going to put everything into it. We've got a bit of the car blokes.
Well, Jensen's got these huge, great big fat things on the back. You
Yeah,
seriously think you've got a chance?
I don't know. We've never done anything like this before, but we're out to win.
Our final competitor, and don't mention the contract, is Jensen Button, undoubtedly a future world champion. No expenses spared in the construction of his £5 million car. The only modification his team have made is to slightly raise the ride height, because even an airport runway is bumpy compared to a Grand Prix circuit. But surely trying to get 900 horsepower down will just make the wheels spin.
Well, last year in 2003 it was a lot easier for us. Slightly boring, but we had the whole launching thing, so we just push a button and we're away. But now it's manual. We've still got traction control, so it's still helping us away from the line. But we do have to take the gear, and then when the lights go out, we do have to feed in the power, release the clutch, and it's all a balancing act, really, just being gentle with everything.
So it's not just full revs, dump the clutch, and the traction control sorts it out?
No, I can't tell you exactly what we do, but no, there is a lot of work involved, and it's always so difficult because you've got all the other cars around you revving at whatever revs, and it's so noisy. So to be able to concentrate on what you're doing is pretty tough.
And this hand clutch you use, I still can't get used to that idea. Is that something that's hard to feel where the bite is?
Well, you get used to it. I mean, even the first time I drove an F1 car, I found it pretty easy to pull out the garage.
So hand clutch, a lot of feel, feeding revs. There's a lot of playing with both the hand clutch and the revs.
There is, and I mean, you're just feeling what's happening with the rear tyres, the traction situation, because even though you have traction control, it doesn't work at very, very low revs, or it's not allowed to at very low revs. So there's still a lot of work involved for the drivers, which is good.
So that's your runners and riders. Now it's time to race. The boat starts with a simple key because it uses a stock 3.3 litre V6 out of a road car. There's just one gear and, save for a kill switch, about the only extra is a flashing light. To save weight, the Works Fireblade does without a starter motor, so to get it going requires a slave engine and a highly trained engineer. And as for the car, well, starting it requires a small army. First you plug in the hairdryers to keep the radiators cool. Then you gas up the special pneumatic valves. Traditional valve springs don't open and close quickly enough at 18,000 RPM. After the 3-litre V10 finally starts, it's warmed up and revved via a laptop. Then a highly trained engineer performs a shift check to ensure the gearbox is working properly.
Yeah, we'd like to do a shift check now, please.
Just look at how quickly the gears are selected. It's like using a switch. When everyone's happy, it's over to Jensen.
Radio check, Jensen.
Radio, okay.
And finally, we can all head for the start. When the boat is up to speed and crosses the start line, it will trigger the race. We're just about to find out what's fastest. A car, a bike, or a boat. It's the best of three, and this is race 1. Rutter makes a mega start and takes just 5.4 seconds to catch the boat. He finishes the quarter mile in 10 seconds, with Button taking 11 and Curtis 13.5. But Jensen has a problem with his car.
Something wrong with the clutch, something wrong with the clutch.
There's a gremlin in the anti-stall system, and the only cure is to turn it off. This time, Button gets a better start and manages to pull away at the halfway point to take the win in 9 seconds. Rutter is 4/10 behind, with Curtis again clocking 13.5 seconds. Car and bike have a win apiece. Who will win the decider? It was an epic battle, and although level for the first 100 metres, as soon as Button could use full power, he streaked away from a wheeling Rutter, with Curtis again finishing 3 seconds behind. The boat may have more power than the bike, but it's simply too heavy to be a threat. Its top speed of 75 miles an hour is massively quick on water, but even crossing the line at full pelt isn't a big enough advantage. Although in fairness, it is the only one which comes with a warranty. You may have thought with a contact patch the size of a palm, the bike's problem would have been grip. But a super sticky tyre compound meant there was no wheel spin at all. Instead, the big problem is a tendency to wheelie. On one wheel, you can't use full power without flipping over. The team had lengthened the wheelbase by a few millimetres to try and help, but what's really needed is a chassis about 2 feet longer to shift the weight forward and keep the front down. Although the car is 3 times heavier than the bike, it has 4.5 times the power. But at the start it's even Stevens because the V10 develops most of its grunt at higher revs. At around 100 miles an hour, the aerodynamics take over, pushing the tyres into the ground, allowing Jensen to unleash the full 900 horsepower without fear of wheel spin. To celebrate his win, Jensen kindly demonstrates what would have happened if he'd used full power from the start. His tyres would have been completely overwhelmed. With over 18,000 RPM bouncing off the rev limiter, it's a final fitting flourish for one of the 100 engines Honda will build for the Grand Prix season.
Leaving it in third gear. I've got to get through this chicane quicker than him. He's absolutely pushing that bike. He's got his knee down. I've got my foot down. The car's sinking around a bit, trying to...
Off-roading's predominantly about doing these things slowly and progressively and gassing it very occasionally, but Vicky was hot on the gas.
You're joking!
No, that's too far.
We hit that wading pool at way too fast a speed.